What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the NHL's Power Rankings. I'm Nick Alberga, joined alongside Rory Boylen. You can follow us on Twitter at the Golden Muzzy, at Rory Boylen. Pretty self-explanatory, Rory, what we're putting together over the next couple weeks throughout this irregular NHL season with a tiered system, right?
Yeah, we're calling them Power Rankings. It's a tier system, though, where we have them called what they are right now, which you'll see. That might change as the year goes on, and I imagine that the top of that pile, the Stanley Cup contenders, will thin out a little bit more. It's hard to kind of say, okay, there's only one or two of those teams at this point because there's a lot of teams coming on strong. We'll have some fun with it. Nick is going to come at me with who he thinks should be higher and lower, and I'll come back at him and tell him why he's wrong. But I think the thing is, this might be the most disappointing episode of them all, Nick, because I'm looking at my tiers and I think they're perfect. I don't know what you're going to be able to come at me with.
I completely disagree. I think, there's 17, 18, maybe 19 teams in the wrong tier right now. So we could start at the bottom because this is aptly named, I think, the NHL Power Contenders, teams we think will vie for the number one overall pick, who we think at this point in time, Rory, will be NHL Power. I think you're not wrong, quite frankly. Ottawa, Anaheim, Chicago, Detroit. Do we see anybody getting out of this division throughout the season?
No, I don't think so. I kind of see this tier as once you get in there, you ain't getting back out again. and it's hard for me to see how any of these teams would get back out, especially I think Ottawa, because they're playing playoff teams basically every night now, right? Our teams from last year at least. And they've got they look slow. They have no depth, and it seems like it's going to be a really long 56 game season for the Ottawa Senators. If I had to pick one of these teams that might be able to get out of this bottom four, I might go with Anaheim just because of the John Gibson factor. I mean, he's been incredible to start this season, and if he had any level of offensive help in front of him, that this team should be better, but they're not there yet. And I don't expect it to happen, but gun to head, that's the team that I would pick because of that reason.
And don't forget, Ducks fly together. With that in mind, we move on here to the Mendoza line. Teams that are teetering on the edge of maybe positivity or on the edge of negativity and being in the NHL Power Contenders list. The one team that stuck out for me on your list, outside of the Vancouver Canucks, who have struggled, although anytime you can get Ottawa 3 times in a row, you take that, if you know what I'm saying. Edmonton's Edmonton, but the Nashville Predators stood out to me, Roy. Yeah,
Nashville, their special teams on both sides just suck, right? There's nothing that's going there. There are a couple teams. This is an interesting tier for me because there are a couple teams that really could go either way, and Nashville is one. Nashville is a team that I had interest in coming into this season. I saw potential for bounce back. Victor Arvidsson off to a pretty good start. I saw a big bounce back from him. Philip Forsberg is a guy who could score a pile of goals for you and in a normal season, be a 40-goal scorer kind of thing. You're making that transition to Juuse Saros. And of course, the team is built on their defense. And when your foundation is your blue line and your goaltending is good enough, you're generally good enough to not totally bottom out. And so I think Nashville is a team that could rise up here. I just haven't seen enough yet. I think because of how bad those special teams are and because of how uncertain I think that full bounce back is this early in the season, there's still a chance that they don't fully climb out of it. Maybe they just kind of hover in this tier all year and they're not good enough to move further up this division, but they're not going to be bad enough to completely bottom out, as I said, move into the NHL Power. So I'm still just kind of in a wait and see mode here on the Nashville Predators to see how it really does shake out with them.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments, and a reminder to like and comment down below. Direct all your disdain on social media to one Rory Boylen at Rory Boylen at the Golden Muzzy for me. But jokes aside, we move on to the Prove Me Wrong tier. I like the teams you've mentioned in here. Maybe I'm a bit more bullish than you on, say, the New York Islanders and the Carolina Hurricanes, but can you explain your reasoning for this?
Yeah, so Carolina, I love this team. I think that Vincent Trocheck trade is going to just continue to look really good for them. They're going to win that one hands down. He's off to a really good start. Help, with that second line. I love Svechnikov. I love Dougie Hamilton. Just a fantastic blue line. Sebastian Aho too. Now you've got offense. For years with this team, they were so good at defense and so good at puck control, but they didn't have guys that could put the puck in the net and take them over the top that way, and now they do. So I love this team, but I think they're going to perennially be, every week, they're going to be in this tier, I think, because I struggle with trusting their goalies. Like, they're one of the best teams, I think second at the moment in 5-on-5 save percentage in the league between Peter Mrazek and James Reimer, and that's not going to last, right? Like, they were bottom 6 in the league in that stat last year with the same two guys. So, that was my concern on them going into the playoffs last year. Can they get over the hump? Are they really a Stanley Cup contender? Should they be in that group of teams that is on the cusp of being a cup contender? And I have a lot of, they have to prove a lot to me in net before I think I can make that leap on them. But that's not to take anything away from this team. I love the makeup of this team. If they could find a goalie I felt better about, I think they would move up. And the Islanders, again,
careful what you say.
I know. You're gonna.
No, they'll get it.
I'm actually surprised.
Twitter.
You're not telling me they need to be down on the Mendoza line.
No, because that's the misconception with me is I think I'm an Islanders hater, but I actually respect the hell out of the team, notwithstanding whatever that was on Thursday night against the Washington Capitals where they blew a 3-0 lead. Maybe should have started Ilya Sorokin, but neither here nor there. He didn't even dress in that game. Corey Schneider backed up because they wanted to bring up Oliver Wahlstrom. But still, I'm with. Yeah, I'm with you on the Carolina front. Ditto for the New York Islanders. I think the goaltending is always going to be a question, right?
Yes. Yeah, and the Islanders, honestly, I have more faith in the Islanders moving up and staying up in a higher tier because their system just works, right? And it's proven. They got to the Eastern Conference Final last year, and at this point, it's not really clicking yet. Barry Trotz has been out after post-game saying that they need to be in a playoff mode, and he's pissed off that they're not there yet. And I think they'll get there. I don't think there's any reason to believe why they won't get there. We talked about their defense. We talked about their goaltending. Matt Barzal is the offensive driver up there. I love Anthony Beauvillier too. They're just a team that proves that, process is going to bring you success. And if you buy into what the coach is selling, it's going to work. And everybody's buying into what Barry Trotz is selling. And it has worked for this team for so long. I think they're going to end up higher in this tier before long. But again, it's not there yet. They're not at their peak performance. So I didn't feel right putting them on the cusp tier. So as this tier says, prove me wrong.
You're right. And I think anytime anybody hears the word or the phrase, the process, Philadelphia folks are triggered by that. And speaking of the Flyers, they're on the cusp. We can mesh these two into one, the true Cup contenders on the cusp. In terms of that tier, the Boston Bruins stuck out to me because people just want to continue to discount this team. They're without David Pastrnak. They're still really, really good. And then the true Cup contenders, I think you're bang on. Montreal enters the equation. What Washington did without the Russian four, we like to call them, Gord Stellick and I, was pretty damn impressive. Peter Laviolette's done an excellent job so far there.
Yeah, on Boston, I kind of wavered on where to put them here. And I think it's just because I want to see a little bit more. And it's not that I doubt Boston. I don't think you can write them off. I think that the question of how good that secondary scoring is going to be is going to remain. Although I think when David Pastrnak comes back into this lineup and goes back onto that top line, having Craig Smith on that second line is going to help wonders there. He was a really good value pickup for them, and he's showing it right now and performing well on that top line. They had a good homestand after a little bit of a slow start, struggled to score at 5-on-5, as we all know. So kind of just want to see, in this next week, how do they do on this road trip in Washington and in Philly, some of the other top teams in that division. And if they show well on that, I fully expect Boston could go up a tier on next week's. And Montreal, when we're talking about this top tier of the true Cup contenders this early in the season, since we know one team from each division is going to be in that semifinal when the playoffs are hit, I thought it important that at least one team from each division enters into that true Cup contenders. And for me, it had to be Montreal. Haven't lost in regulation yet. I mean, it's all about center depth, scoring depth, good blue line, good goaltending. And Montreal so far has all of that stuff. Like, Josh Anderson has been just absolutely lights out. What a risk that was to not only trade for him, but sign him right away to a big long-term contract. And it just is hitting right now. Jake Allen has been great when he's had to come in for Carey Price, which maybe you give Carey Price a few more rest days and he's more ready for the playoffs. Tyler Toffoli's been awesome. That was the weirdest goal last night where he just kind of shoveled it in on a breakaway. Somebody tweeted at me that he learned that shoveling snow in Montreal this year, which I thought was pretty great. But they seem a little bit more complete than Toronto, but they're really neck and neck there, right? And so I think when those two teams go up against each other again in a couple of weeks, that's going to be must-see TV, and it's going to determine who is taking the lead. But for me right now, Montreal just has more positive things around them than Toronto. So that's why I went with them in the top tier and kept Toronto in on the cusp.
Fair enough. And again, these NHL Power Rankings will be fun because on a weekly basis, they'll change depending on who they play. I mean, for example, a week ago, the Vancouver Canucks might have been lower, but then they take care of the Ottawa Senators, and good on them. So excellent start, Rory, and can't wait to touch base once again next week.
Yeah, let's do it again. Let's see what happens this week.
There you have it. That's Rory Boylen. I'm Nick Alberga at the Golden Muzzy at Rory Boylen, where you can follow along on Twitter. And again, these have been Sportsnet's NHL Power Rankings.